Today, for the Series 6 exam, we will cover the critical topic of mutual fund expenses. Understanding these fees is not just about passing the test, it is fundamental to understanding how investment returns are affected in the real world. Let's start with the all-encompassing fee, the expense ratio. The expense ratio represents the annual cost of owning a fund, expressed as a percentage of your investment. So, if you have $10,000 in a fund with a 1% expense ratio, you are paying $100 a year, every year, whether the fund makes money or loses money. This fee is not billed to you directly. Instead, it is deducted from the fund's assets, which in turn reduces the net asset value, or NAV, of your shares. The exam will expect you to know what is inside this ratio. The largest component of the expense ratio is typically the management fee. This is the fee paid to the fund's investment advisor for managing the portfolio, doing the research, and making the buy and sell decisions. Think of it as paying for the manager's expertise. The other costs bundled into the expense ratio are administrative costs, like record keeping, accounting, and legal services. However, a key fee you must know for the exam is the 12B1 fee, which is named after the SEC rule that permits it. This fee is used to pay for marketing and distribution costs, essentially the costs of selling the fund shares to the public. It includes advertising, printing prospectuses, and paying commissions to brokers. The Series 6 exam loves to test the limits on this fee. FINRA rules state that a 12B1 fee cannot exceed 0.75% of the fund's average net assets per year. Now, here is a common trap for test takers related to so-called no-load funds. A fund can only be marketed as a no-load fund if its 12B1 fee is at or below 0.25%. Many funds have 12B1 fees higher than this, up to the 0.75% maximum, and they cannot call themselves no-load. This is a crucial distinction. An exam question might present a fund and ask if it can be described as no-load. You need to check the 12B1 fee to answer correctly. To remember the main components of the expense ratio, use the phrase "mad fees make your returns sad." M for management, A for administrative, and D for distribution, which are the 12B1 fees. It is a simple way to recall what makes up the expense ratio and its negative impact on performance. The final and most important concept is how these fees impact investor returns over time. The exam might present a suitability question comparing two funds with similar investment objectives but different expense ratios. For example, Fund A has a 0.5% expense ratio, while Fund B has a 1.5% ratio. Over 1 year, the difference seems small, but over 20 or 30 years, that 1% difference can compound into tens of thousands of dollars in lost returns for the investor. For a long-term investor, the fund with the lower expense ratio is almost always the more suitable recommendation, assuming the objectives and strategies are truly comparable. The power of compounding works for your returns, but it also works for the fees you pay, steadily eroding your investment's growth potential. Always be on the lookout for lower expense ratios when evaluating funds for clients.